else was like one.
We're gonna get started.
I'm telling you.
We're gonna get started. We're gonna get started. Thank you. Well, welcome to the legislative committee meeting. We are doing a twice a month routine until we get caught up. And as you can see, not all of our items are on today's agenda that we need to get to. But we will be going over film permits. We're going to be listening to Greg Klein. And we will also be hopefully finishing up the fee schedule. But we need a couple more city staff members to be attending. Is the young lady in the audience here?
Yeah, this is Jerry Cohen.
Oh, hi.
We've spoken on the phone.
Okay.
Jerry works in the film industry and has started a great career doing that. So she's here to advise us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, with that said, I believe that's the two topics that we're gonna cover tonight. So if Karen, you didn't want to sit on that hard bench again, you don't have to. I want to save somebody's butt. And Steve, I don't think we're prepared to talk about the neighborhood markets. Was there anything more that you wanted to add on the fee schedule?
Nope.
If you're good on that, then I don't want to take up any more of your time.
Okay.
Sound good? Do you think 2 weeks from now would be a good time to go over the neighborhood? And then the information that's been attached to these emails that we've been having for the agenda, that information is what we should be looking at?
The slideshow, the revised code.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you wanted us to kind of go over before we talk in 2 weeks?
I mean, I can send it updated. I don't know.
Okay. That works for you?
Okay.
All right, thank you for coming.
Thanks.
All right.
Clarify, we're not talking neighborhood markets today? Okay. We'll have a good night, everybody.
You too. Thanks for
Just need
coming.
the tips.
Yeah, I'll leave it downstairs.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are other people gonna be able to present their side of the neighborhood markets?
Absolutely. When we get into meat and potatoes of that, which will be in 2 weeks,
So we can come prepared with something?
so you could come prepared with something, yes, in
Okay.
2 weeks.
Thank
We're trying to meet, we're only scheduled to meet once a month, but we're doing twice a month so that we can try and catch up.
Gotcha.
We just have a lot on our.
Is there a time limit on how long we can present something for a format, if I could?
Roughly, petition would be 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, more than that?
Not sure right
Who
now.
are you?
Who am I?
Yes, who are you and where do you
Kyle
live?
Marks, 35 Elm Street.
Okay. If you think that it's gonna be more than, say, 5 minutes, why don't you send it to the 3 committee members beforehand?
Okay.
So 1, 2, 3.
Sure. All right, thank you.
All right, Kyle, thank you for coming.
Sure.
Is there anybody else? Kathy, nothing?
I'm just bearing witness.
Well, thank you for being here. All right, so with that said, we'll get started on our first item, which is film permits, and Greg Klein, the floor is yours.
Great. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Greg Klein. I'm the film commissioner for Otsego County and an organization called Film Otsego. And we're hoping to get the film permits passed in the city. I think between the city and the town, probably 75% of our film business in Otsego County will come, to those 2 locations. And so the smoother that we can make it for people coming in to make films or the people that are here making films, the better off it is. I don't know what from the last article and last meeting when it was brought up, remains and what doesn't remain, but it seemed like there were questions maybe that I could have addressed, so I wanted to be here this time to just let you guys ask anything you wanted to ask. And I guess as a blanket statement, I mean, you've seen the form that we favor from Schenectady, you've probably seen the form that Cooperstown passed. And, it's really, the best way to think of it, I think, is as notification for everybody at the city level, from your residents to your officials, to the police, to the fire, of film activity. And if there's special things involved in the film activity, guns, chases, you need the police, you need the fire, animals. The mayor famously said in our previous incarnation, the film commercial. If you want to bring an elephant down Main Street, we'll let you do it. But you need a permit for that, right? You guys don't want to be caught off guard by an elephant coming down Main Street. And, you know, little things. City Hall is perfect for film. You know, the look outside, you can picture it, you know? But there has to be a rental fee for that. There has to be a form for that. So, you know, that's ancillary to the actual film permit, but the film permit is a way a month ahead of time, a couple of weeks ahead of time, that a producer can check with the city and say, here's our plans, very detailed, here's our budget, here's our insurance, here's the nights we're shooting, here's the loud noises, here's the unusual circumstances, here's the rentals that we need, here's all our ducks in a row, we want you guys to know ahead of time. And, you know, permitting wise, fee wise, the best thing from my perspective is not to go too high, but just to think of it as, what is it costing your clerk's time for a few hours of filing it, approving it, notifying everybody if it needs to go to committee to get approved for one reason or another, closing roads, special circumstances, loud noises, gunfire, you know, so on and so forth. You know, when Otsego Media made their last movie here a couple weeks ago, there had to be a special meeting called to get the permit passed to do some of the things they wanted to do. And, you know, when they did Asteroid a couple years ago, they needed the fire truck and the police car. They had to use the police chief and the fire chief because they were the only people that were on salary, and, you know, it wasn't gonna cost extra to use them. So there should be a more procedural way to do this and make it easy for everybody.
So let's go back to residents. How do you notify the residents? And how far out do you notify residents? I heard you mention something about loud noise multiple times tonight, and guns and other animals. So notification to the general public, what's that look like in your mind?
Do you guys know Jerry? Jerry Cohen is a Teamster location scout, and she has a lot of experience in this.
So I think I'm just gonna verify everything
Just,
that
I'm
Greg
sorry, for
said.
the record, if you could
Oh.
just give your name to the
Oh, my
clerk.
name is Jerry, Jeri Cohen, Cohen. Okay, I'm a Teamster Local 817, location scout manager. So I've been working in the business for like 25 years, and I know Greg. Basically, I think I can verify everything he's saying. Basically, the three major things that you need the permit, you need the resident letter, and some sort of fee schedule. You know, and I think that, and most importantly, even before any of that, the insurance from the company who's coming in, whether it be a commercial, you know, or commercials generally are not gonna ever film up here, because they're generally all union and they have to be much closer to New York. So, but for a film coming in, even a low budget independent film, they should hold $1 million in insurance. And I think what Greg is saying, Donna in Schenectady, she's been a film commissioner a long time. She has a great way of doing everything. Her forms are really good. Her fee schedule is very good. So basically just, you know, taking what she's done and, you know,
But notification.
adapting it to Oneonta.
To Len's question though about notification.
Oh, notification, so, if you're filming and you know you're gonna be in a house, say you're on a house on Center Street. And, so all the residents on Center Street on both sides of the block should all have a letter put in their mailbox. And there should also be postings on, you know, wherever you could post it, with the resident letter that states the production company, the location manager, or the person who's gonna be in that role. Because sometimes low budgets, they don't have, you know, the budget for a person like me. And that's basically it, you know, telling them when the production's shooting, the time frame,
So
and
you're
all.
saying that every time you film inside this house on Center Street, you're notifying folks up and down?
You have to, yeah.
And what I
I
would
mean, you
say, or
should.
what I would add to that
It's a
is,
very simple form
Mm-hmm.
that,
And
you
so you
know.
don't take into consideration loud noises?
No, I mean, you could write that in the letter if there's gonna be,
So if you are letting off a loud noise inside the Center City area, wouldn't you wanna notify more than just a street? I'm not trying to be
well, you can make-
contradictory
no,
to you,
no,
but
no,
a
no.
loud noise is gonna be, I hear
Yes.
gunshots from Kearney Street that happen in Center City, so.
right. Well, I guess you could, you know, post, depending upon what it is.
How do they do it in Schenectady? You brought up Donna from Schenectady.
You know, generally if we're in a house and there's gonna be a loud noise, you could let the people know behind you, you let the people know in front of you and on both sides. And basically, that's really it.
Police department?
Yes, of course, the police department, once the permit goes through the mayor's office, then copies go to the police department, the fire department, all the departments, so they know that there's a film in town.
And I guess the other thing to consider is that the permit is the beginning of the application in the sense that there's a lot of normal shoots that won't be that complex and won't need a very intricate system of notification. If, to use her example, if you're just filming somebody coming out of the front of their house on Center Street and they get in their car, maybe they pull out and drive away, you can assess that from the permit. It's not going to be as involved as if, say, they come out of their house, they're about to get in their car on Center Street, and somebody pulls up and there's a gunshot and then the car screeches away. But you'll know that from the permit. They're going to have to tell you in the permit, this is what we're doing. And so anything more complex than basic filming, like this is your opportunity to see it and assess it and address it. And you guys actually make the determination of who has to be notified, how big.
Right, we're not industry experts, that's why you're here.
No, I know.
And I'm sorry that I missed you last time, but literally, this is the reason why you're here, because in that scenario, Greg, that you just gave, I already said, have a couple of questions, I'm sure Katie and Shannon have questions from the fact that someone's shooting from a moving car, or PD on scene?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the stuff that you guys have not communicated in the multiple times that you have been before us, that we don't know this stuff. So that's what I'm trying to extract from everybody is,
So,
what does it look like? And remember, that's the forms,
Yeah.
the forms. Now we only created one form, but now we're talking about a resident letter that hasn't been done.
oh yeah, resident
I
letter.
think we talked about
That's easy.
insurance when we created the form, but I think this committee has decided to move from $1 million to $2 million, right? And so, the price difference, we're told, is not that great from
Okay.
$1 million to $2 million.
Okay.
But the loud noises has been brought up multiple times by other experts. And then what is the rental fees, right? So Greg, you brought up, Otsego Media a couple of years ago, had to use both department heads because that's all the budget could hold. Now, a little bit bigger budget, now they can afford. So we need to come up with a cost, and that's what we're doing, is coming up with a cost for the employees and
Right.
the other
Like
city
you say
assets.
something. Is that a lot of times, in New York City, a lot of times what we do, well, there's a whole unit for the police and the fire department that's connected to the film business. But oftentimes in smaller towns where we've done a lot of filming, like in New Jersey, what you do is you hire the police and the fire personnel that aren't working that day or that are off.
Right.
And then they get paid through a separate channel. So it's like overtime payment for them if they want to. There's a list of personnel that,
Right.
aren't working, and then the film company hires them.
Like
You know,
Even
the
associated
producer
here
hires them.
in New Jersey, you know that
Yeah.
we're unionized here,
Yeah.
and that we have to pay a prevailing rate, right?
Right, of
And
course.
because we're using a city asset,
Yes,
and if they get hurt on the job with police and fire, it's a whole different retirement system that we're talking about. So-
right.
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 So you're saying
But-
they wouldn't be able to be hired
No,
per
you would
diem
be,
by
but
the
it's like if
producer?
they get hurt, they're on the job, that's what this means, they're on the job. So given
Well, they
what
would
we've
be,
been talking about, you could run into, so.
she was saying that they would be working for the production company.
Right,
for the
not
city.
for us,
It
they're
would
off
be
that day.
when they're off, oftentimes because they can't work, well.
So they'd be like a 1099?
Yeah, 10, I'm not exactly sure how the producer pays them, but they're hired.
So they're not
as a
working
s-
for the police department that day,
Yeah.
they're just
Yeah.
acting as officers?
Yeah.
I guess that means whatever scenario it is, but if you're gonna rent other city assets like fire engines, ambulances, police cars,
Yeah, there
Yeah,
should be
we
forms
should
for
have a
that, for
fee.
sure, and
our
schedules.
personnel are actually gonna get in their uniform, their city issued uniform,
Okay,
that's something different.
Right.
yeah, well, yeah.
And again, time-wise, Len, you want to have enough time, ideally, in a perfect world, you have, a full cycle to address it. And ideally, these people are being funneled to you guys by us.
Mhm.
So when they come to us 3 months out, 6 months out, a year out, we can coach them on the process so that we don't have these last minute things. Now, some of them will come up, but what we really want is for Carrie to know ahead of time, everybody else to be informed, you guys to feel comfortable with how wide a range for what things, require notification. And then, the ancillary things like the fee schedules and the notification letter and stuff like that.
Makes sense to me.
And also when the start time and the end time is important.
Okay.
Because you have to decide, what is correct for Oneonta to start, when do you want trucks idling outside people's homes in a residential neighborhood?
So that's
You know?
that's one thing we talked about last time. We were initially hesitant to allow filming overnight. But
We're
Well-
advised that would kill the.
right,
ability
that
to
would kill the
film, because
industry.
A lot of
So,
times it's low
Overnight,
budget
nobody
film.
but filming overnight is not something that a lot of towns allow.
Okay,
So you could start at 6 AM and you're,
Corey was
10,
lobbying for it.
10, oh, you are
Corey
lobbying for
was, yeah.
overnight?
I mean, again, I think the thing to think about is if somebody's inside a house, especially at Corey's level, he's shooting $200,000-$300,000 films, so you're not talking about Quiet Place 7. But, I mean, that's my dream. So what if Quiet Place 7 did come here and they were
Right.
spending $100 million? You don't want to say to them, no, you can't shoot at the Armory at night. You
right.
want to say, how do we minimize the distractions and problems for our residents?
Well, there should be times, but it should be able to be,
Yeah,
there
like-
should be able to be, if,
With a special
a
permit or
circumstance where you could go over that.
And again, if
You know,
they're
it's
shooting
not gonna
inside
be-
the Armory all night, but it's relatively contained and it's not loud, that's not even necessarily really a city permit
Mm-mm.
thing.
No.
Right.
But if they shoot, the zombies walking into the Armory at midnight and they've lit up, in front of the Armory so that they can shoot it, that is a city permit thing and that is a notification thing. But that is still different than it's The Walking Dead and Kyle Carvin is adding to his body count by shooting more people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
At 2 a.m.
That's different, that's police and fire and, a half-mile radius of the Armory that needs to be notified. But those are 3 different levels, and hopefully Carrie or whoever does it can assess from the initial permit which level of care and need the city needs.
Most of the time, it's not gonna be like that.
Right.
Because there's people working in the film business that are not getting paid beyond a certain amount of hours, and they need turnaround time. So it's not like you could really just work all night, night after night after night, it just doesn't.
But,
But there should be a circumstance where if they are doing a big movie, $100 million movie, whatever it is, that then you could look at the permit and say, okay, we can allow that, not
was the
every
factory-
night though.
what factory did they shoot in this most recent movie? Was it in the
Lutz, I
city?
think.
Where?
Lutz,
Okay, so I mean, they did shoot there at night, right?
yeah,
I mean, they shot all night for at least a week.
down, like on the roundhouse.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
What's that?
Do we have the forms from
I
Donna?
couldn't find it in my email.
So I found her application form online, I don't see the additional or the supplemental permits, but
Okay.
her application form is very similar and one of the tools we used when we developed the last committee's iteration.
You gonna email us?
Thank you.
You're talking about Donna from Schenectady, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
she's famous here,
He was-
Donna from Schenectady. Because if we could just get her feet, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well,
Get
that's what
these
I-
forms
that's what I was
in.
trying to say.
Just
Yeah.
not reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
If it works in another location, and this is someone who, as a commissioner, is respected by other commissioners and people in the industry in terms of it being a viable, process, then if we can, like you said, like replicate that, but then tailor it for our community. Cause I think, my biggest concern, and it's what we're talking about, is making sure that it can be done, but that it's not at the expense of the people who are in the surrounding area. So, and it just sounds like we need to have like a fee, talk with our public safety, maybe even DPW, like department chairs, so that we can, figure out what a reasonable cost would be to rent. Because we do have requests for that, to like rent an ambulance or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Do
we're
you
not talking
guys
like,
have the information for Donna from Schenectady, or do you have the forms that
Um,
we could utilize?
I have the forms on my computer.
Oh,
I don't
awesome.
have-
Could
I
you
can-
please send them to us?
Sure, I have all of the
Thank you.
forms.
Wait,
From
do you have all the forms?
Schenectady,
No.
Albany, Binghamton.
If you could please
You know,
give
I
us
just have them on my desktop. just-
Donna-
Yeah, you can send them to us if you want.
Sure.
Donna
Thank
from
you.
Schenectady.
Okay.
Yeah, I have them all.
All right, I'll forward them out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But
She has the easy, I think hers is very easy and simplified.
It's very
and,
easy to use. And their capital district is a little ahead of us, obviously,
Yeah.
in their build out of the business. So, places like that, places like Troy, they've gotten used to and sort of embraced the idea of, regular cameras on the street. And-
Troy's such a good example.
Yeah.
Yeah, Troy is good comparatively, I would say.
Yeah.
And they did the Gilded Age, I mean, they're doing it this summer also, so,
Yeah.
And not for nothing, Schenectady, their film studio is in their armory.
yeah,
Now it's the Armory Film Studio,
right.
Cool.
Yeah.
so.
Okay, that's something to think about.
to do with the armory, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so
Any
look
other
at
questions?
Schenectady. No. Is there anything else as we go through this process that you feel like we really need to know or take into consideration?
Well, I just would echo what Jerry said a few minutes ago. 90% of the filming is gonna be simple, no nonsense, just a basic permit. Maybe they're in somebody's house on private property and you don't even need to know, or maybe they're gonna shoot the person coming out onto the street, so you do need to know, or maybe they need parking spaces, so you need to know, but it's really the rare 10%. And yet, those will be the ones that are most memorable when we see them on screen, right? God forbid there really is an elephant going down Main Street someday and somebody's filming it, but if it was Steven Spielberg filming it and he was bringing $50 million with him, we want him to come here rather than Troy.
And I think that's a good point that Greg brings out, is that anytime there is filming in your community, it's bringing business, it's bringing tourism, people are spending money, film crews need to eat, they need somewhere to sleep. So it is good business. It can be really good business.
Mhm.
So it's definitely something to keep in mind. At the same time, you should have some sort of fee schedule. And for, maybe something that's low budget, they can afford the fee schedule, so you waive it for them. It could be depending upon, the costs.
Even Cooperstown has a student slot
Yes,
and
student
a
slot,
news
yeah.
slot, so that, those people aren't the ones paying it.
Okay,
What's a student slot?
Well, if you're filming
It's
like a
free.
student film, or you're filming for your high school, it's a free
It's
pass,
free.
basically.
Even New York City does it for free, if you're a
Yeah, but
student.
I think we were down for anybody receiving money, right? Now it was down to,
well, that's a really good thing that maybe we could talk about.
Commercial, yeah, that makes
Is,
sense.
yeah, we were trying to define like what is commercial versus what is journalism versus what is like student work, and do we wanna have a permit for all of those
Yeah.
things? And like delineate it in some other way, or do we wanna just say like, if it's something where you're intending to, sell this to make product to make money, then you have to have a permit?
I think I read in the paper that you guys were talking about like New York City and handhelds, and that is like kind of the rule. If you have a tripod, you need a permit.
yeah,
If
you have
it's
a handheld,
handheld,
you
it's
don't.
fine.
But what you're saying is very similar, if it's a student film, but again, what if it's a student film, but they want the police, right? So they might still need a permit, but they can at least check the box that says, student film, no fee.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Okay.
but not if they want to rent the police car, they still need to pay for that, so. And yeah, you don't charge the media for their stand-ups, obviously. But, the Village of Cooperstown has tried before to charge people for Doubleday Field stand-ups and things like that. I don't think it went well, but
No.
don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
right, I
She
mean,
totally wrote it down.
we're just trying
Media
to
is
hone in on the
completely
10%. In your analogy, the 10%
The
is
ten
what's gonna
percent,
do
yeah,
it.
all the
It's a
weird
hard
things,
time.
if last year, it wasn't in the city, but Zombie Apache, we had a lot of talk ahead of time about the fact that they were gonna do a Viking funeral pyre, right? And ultimately, it came down to nobody in any place that they were thinking of filming had a permit system yet. But the reality is, if you had a big, Viking fire, you'd want somebody to know, going forward, right?
Right, 100%.
Especially if it was in city limits.
Cool. one question that I have, and it might be on this permit that Carrie just sent us, thank you, is turnaround time. So from the time we get the permit to the actual like filming, what's like a recommended window there? Like, cause, I mean, is 2 weeks to 30 days reasonable?
It
I
is,
think 30 days is way too long,
Okay,
you know, because, I mean, if I'm scouting something and we want to film in 3 weeks, it could happen. I would say a 14-day at the,
but the other thing is, you can charge more for an emergency turnaround. You have to have special meetings and, you know, it's like, again, I think about, like, Corey's not gonna do that to you guys, right?
Right.
They're very planned out, they're gonna tell you ahead of time what they need, they're gonna file the permit ahead of time. If they need to come in and talk about it, they'll come in and talk about it. But what if Steven Spielberg falls in love with Oneonta at the last minute and needs a 7-day turnaround? Well, okay, that's, you know, $500.
okay.
All right, you know, let's do it. So,
Yeah. Okay,
I would say on the average, 14 days is probably a
recommended.
good average.
but, you know,
for
again,
a film permit.
Cooperstown has a 28 or a 30-day cycle because it's, you know, that's what they did.
So we're talking about Donna Pennell.
Yes,
Okay, so she's not only the Schenectady Film Commissioner since 2016, but she also has her own production.
Does she really? I thought she was a city employee, but it's possible.
DonnaPennell.com, Donna Pennell Production.
yeah, she,
We all have the
She
dreams,
may.
right?
yeah, I mean, a lot of people do, you know.
Cool. I feel much better about going forward with this. I appreciate you guys coming in and talking to us.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
If you have any more questions, you feel free to reach out to me. 'cause
Okay. I
You
will.
guys know,
Thank you.
Craig is.
especially the ones that have spoken to me before, we really want Oneonta to be a hub for the film industry. And we're behind a lot of the other areas of the state, but, you know, these last 5 years, we've done a lot of good stuff. So permitting is a big part of it, and it's certainly, it's the next step, but it's a step we've been working on for a couple of years now. So hopefully we'll get this done soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we have way more direction than we did, so I appreciate
Great.
it.
And if you guys want us back, just let us know. We're at the council meeting. We're happy to come.
Okay, cool.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
guys, have a great night.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are you related to the Cohen directors?
I am not, and they spelled that name differently.
Do they?
I have worked on that film stuff.
Sounds good.
Over the years.
Take care.
Take care. Yeah.
All right, so how do we envision this moving forward? Are all three of us looking at the Donna Pennell Productions and or the film Schenectady? And
Yeah.
getting ideas and then communicating via email?
Yeah, and I wanna look at Troy as well, because they host an HBO production, in residential neighborhoods. So, and it's something that's really, in my perception, is really well received by the community. So looking at like the guidelines that they have in place, I think would be really helpful. But yeah, I wanna look at the form and kind of compare it to those two things and maybe come back to our next meeting.
Or
We
we
could
could
do it
email
via
too,
email,
yeah. To
I
push
was
this
just-
along.
Let's,
I think
yeah,
if we
this has been
can-
going on for a little while. Maybe we could communicate in the next 2 weeks.
I think if we can have a form ready for like approval at the
Okay.
next meeting,
We
or do you
have
wanna
a
just put it?
form.
I know
We
what
have to
I
add
mean,
to it, fine.
that's what I mean, like
And
We're creating
finalized,
the legislation to put forward that backs up the form.
okay,
I
Right.
kind of did it backwards, but.
gotcha, okay.
So, but we also need to have a fee schedule and stuff together. So they're gonna email you the Donnas from Schenectady's form.
Donna from Schenectady,
And,
yes,
but we could do it via email.
we can do it via email, so we'll be working on this, and then, yeah, just I think at the next meeting, if we can, cause we, like you said, we also have to work on the legislation. We need to inquire about reasonable fees for these kind of things.
Right, so remember the legislation is gonna be scoping, but not
Specific.
detailed.
Yeah.
The forms should be the detailed part.
Right,
Right.
The only other thing is I wanna make sure we include Greg into the conversation about the fees, because ultimately he needs to approve whether that covers the costs or not.
For sure.
So.
Okay.
So Greg will make sure we include you in that conversation, so you can take a look at that, understand whether it's gonna cover our costs or not. How did you think that the last example did covering our costs? You think that was there when Corey's production company rented out city assets?
Yeah, I mean, we have in our fee schedule already ambulance rental fees essentially that are were designed for different purposes, but
Oh,
I would assume, you know, just like.
You think they're-
Except a hard football game with, you know,
Okay,
people, what's the difference?
okay.
I think that would be the same, if that fee is appropriate for that, it's the same
Oh, sorry.
equipment and personnel. Police car fee that's in there, same thing, if it needs to be updated.
That's what I'm asking, did that cover our costs this last time?
I didn't do an analysis of that, I would have to ask the chief to look at that to see what the actual time spent, what I think it was a couple hours. I think it's a per hour fee,
Is
so
that what it is?
I would think that it would cover it unless it has been updated.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, when we were talking about, public safety, you know, presence at 4th of July, the, fee schedule and the estimated costs were like really
close.
close.
Pretty
So
close.
it probably is, you know, a reasonable charge. So,
We're gonna have to just make sure that we separate rent, like when they pay to utilize our officers, that's not if they're acting in something or like on their day off,
right, I
like
mean,
separate fees.
that's sort of what I'm thinking is like, you know, going to a football game, like I understand that, you know, it's technically the same vehicle and the same personnel, but they're sort of on a more targeted, like life-saving purpose as opposed to like this kind of extra thing.
Right.
So I don't know if there's a way to determine like one use versus the other, but it seems like that is a more necessary and in line, like the football games is a more necessary and in line use of department resources than shooting a movie, which is a business, but not, you know, like making sure that people don't die necessarily, so. I don't know, just something is rolling around in my head.
So from your perspective though, Greg, do you feel that having a fixed number in the fee schedule is the best way of going? Meaning we know that there's increases every year, so that technically should be updating every year. Should we just keep it, can we legally keep it just generic and say at the, whatever verbiage we come up
Cost plus some percent, we have some fees like that, yeah.
with? It just,
We do also update our fee schedule every year, you know, around December, January, but I think some fees are cost plus some percentage of each fee.
in this particular case, I would just rather see us do something like that, so then,
We don't have to keep up with it every year.
right, there's
Yeah.
just so much in there. I mean, look at how long it's taken us to go through the fee schedule. And so if they missed this, that we didn't get it updated and the numbers are old, then we're not covering our costs. So I would just think having a cost plus percentage would cover it.
But I mean, it does incur additional, to some extent, administrative effort to calculate that cost, as opposed to just, okay, we did it for 2 hours, here's the hourly cost.
Right, but
I think if you have an hourly cost, that kind of covers it, because you generally know your costs at the start of the year.
I was just thinking of the difference in grade, that's all I was at, right? So obviously a more senior employee is gonna cost more than a junior employee.
Right, so if you base your fee on the most senior employee that might be assigned to that,
Is that what it is?
I don't know how it was calculated last, but that could be how,
It was
you
done.
know, the way you go about it.
We could make it a
That
policy
knowledge.
that that's what we do.
True. I'm also trying not to create more work, that's all.
Yeah, well, the fee schedule is something that we have to do routinely, you have to adopt it every January, so it's within that, I mean, it would shorten that process, but the process already exists.
I'm just thinking, when we're looking at these costs, do we think this deep into it every time, that's all.
Well, I think also when we get Donna's coming from Schenectady's form, it'll be easier to kind of determine what it is we're actually looking at. Like the scope of what's on there, and then we may be going too deep, who knows, we may not. There may be things we're not thinking about, because this is not anything that's been on our plate before.
Right.
So, I think.
Right.
More so crossing the bridge when we get over there.
All right, Before moving on, I skipped over public comment. Is there anybody in the public that wanted to talk? No? Okay, and then correspondence. Carrie, do we have any correspondence?
You have one item of correspondence that was received from John Hamel. I forwarded you a copy electronically and then also placed a copy on your desk for review.
Does anybody have any questions, comments about the comment? Okay. All right, so we'll go on to fee schedule. Carrie has provided us with a couple of changeables to go over.
I love a graph, thank you.
I had some time.
Okay, so we should be on page 10 of the hard copy fee schedule.
Okay,
Wait, this is not fee schedule.
I don't have my fee schedule with me.
I don't know if fee schedule.
That's okay.
What are you two keeping in the desk down there? Mine's full of
I
stuff.
bring mine home so I can work on it at home, Len.
You're digital.
It's true. I'm on my computer today.
You were at a more important thing.
I'm sorry, what
You were at a more important thing.
do you mean?
There was a little person.
Oh, no, I was at work today, but.
Oh, I thought you
We're
were-
digressing, sorry.
Thought he was going for a belt.
Oh, no, that was a couple
Oh,
What
things
are
ago.
what are we talking about here?
Sorry, nothing important.
it
Pavilions.
was a sidetrack. 2023 bandstand related revenue.
Yeah, okay.
This doc. Okay.
Yeah, I find it crazy that alcohol deposits that we retain, we find more than the bandstand.
That bandstand, man, it does,
Carrie, are we, I'm sorry, how do I phrase this? With the bandstand, is there like an open schedule where people can like select dates from? Is this like what they've selected, like, how do I frame that?
The application process?
Is it like, is it only like weekends? Is it only certain days? Is it like, are all days is this available?
All days.
Okay.
You file an application with our office. It has to, typically because of the condition of the bandstand, it needs to be within city limits. We're trying to keep it between the park and Main Street.
Okay.
But you file an application with us and if it's available, typically you can have it.
Okay. So we only had 19 reservations, 10 were for the city. So the city, I'm assuming, does not pay, right?
Correct.
The non-for-profits do not pay?
Not-for-profits do pay, they pay a lesser fee.
And then,
$100 is correct?
$100 is correct.
and so DO did not pay.
DO had it in their contract, one of their last agreements with us, that they did not pay permitting fees or those types of things.
Okay.
I have a thought in my brain, which is that we are in the process, maybe, of adding a performance space to Miller Plaza, and I know that there are grand designs for a larger venue in Newell Park.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just looking at the revenue from the bandstand and, you know, this could be an if we build it, they will come moment, but I do have concerns about a full year's revenue being $800 and then possibly putting like a really big chunk of change into a performance venue.
Millions.
Yeah,
What do we pay to maintain the bandstand?
That's not out of my department.
Oh, but I mean, I'm assuming, you said because of the condition it's in, so it needs repair.
It does need repair, it's 20 years old, give or take.
Try to check something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had issues in the past where it was taken outside of the city to fairgrounds, someplace where we got stuck, and then DPW has to spend half a day driving to Walton or wherever So we, you know, that issue that happened a couple times and the fact that it wasn't in the greatest condition, we decided to keep it in the city. I can look up the budgeted maintenance code, it's not a huge maintenance cost per year, but
what are the life expectancies of bandstand
I would say we're about at that.
at that? Okay.
If we asked Charlie to talk about it, he'll explain what some of the issues. We redid the electrical in that a couple of years ago. We just couldn't wait anymore. I'm not sure the extent of rust and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Not only is it the total revenue, but the total usage.
Right, yeah.
Well, if we do have a space that's built, then these 19 things can go to that space.
Right.
I'm just curious why we still have the bandstand if it's in bad condition. It's med life.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I'm not wrong, because we just don't have another place to have like a city concert series or.
I mean, it's still functional. It's not a life safety issue with people using it, that kind of deal, but
Yeah,
it's certainly.
it's just old and tired. Yeah.
I am too.
Many of us.
So Carrie, do you by chance keep the data on how many times we get requested for that?
With the exception of one that was canceled and one that was declined. And I believe we declined it due to weather and where they wanted it to be placed. Everything is on there. So 2 times last year.
So, to your point.
Yeah. I will say, there was one thing that came before the Parks Commission last year that didn't end up going through because it was a fundraiser and they wanted to do ticketed entry in order to do like the ticket proceeds to, you know, their chosen thing. And so, you know, that's one drawback of everything being, you know, open air.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe one plus for some sort of different music venue, but yeah. It's really, I mean, I think the thing is, it's underutilized, but I think it's at its capacity for what we have right now. So we have to decide whether we're going to invest, we're getting off topic, but I think we have to decide whether we're going to invest in music performances of like higher caliber, bigger draw, in order to subsidize the fact that we're going to spend so much money on a performance venue. So I think we need to have a plan in place to make sure that utilization matches the investment.
Right, so we might be looking at another bandstand based on only 21 requests. How do you justify going down a different path for millions of dollars?
Right.
So the banner use, Carrie, are we talking about the in front of Westcott Lot? Is that what we're talking about, or is this over
No,
the
these
city
are over
street?
Main Street. We had absolutely no Westcott Lot reservations last year.
No, it was later.
And then the community gardens, does this amount cover the cost it takes the city staff to actually prepare and clean up the gardens?
I know there are a fair amount of services provided down there, that would be a Chris question.
And then the amount of water,
There's water, there's soil, fertilizer, maintenance,
The open air thing that they proposed to us.
some basic tools in the shed.
Back when we were.
I just wanna make sure we're covering the costs.
Yeah, I mean, there is a group, right, there's like a stewardship group for the community garden, and they do a lot of volunteer work down there to help subsidize some of the effort.
I mean, is it city employees that are doing the road tilling, or each person?
They do, at the top of the season, they do, for those that request it.
We also were bringing compost down there, right?
Yeah, it's
for
the
people to
garden.
use, right? Which is awesome. I mean, the thing is, and if Jenny were here, she would say this is one of those things for me where the benefit to the community is so great that it's not necessarily something that can be quantified. that's not to say that our fees are not, I mean, they're very, very affordable, and that's good, and, you know, that's not to say that there isn't any wiggle room there, but I don't know that this for me is solely a monetary thing.
What did I miss, trying to get numbers from Greg?
Community garden,
What about the community garden?
that DPW maintains it.
Oh,
Yeah, so I'm just trying to figure out how much goes into that. Greg, is
So
that
there's
something?
42 people though that are getting the benefit.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense, thanks.
So Katie, there's 42 people that are getting that benefit.
That's true.
And it's the only spot in the city that we have this?
There's just one now. There's another one that's owned by a different group up near Fox.
Right.
Yeah, we actually were talking about sorry, so this is like overlap with parks. So we were talking about, you know, potential expansions into other neighborhoods, which, you know, to your concern would increase the cost, but would benefit more people. So,
Right. I mean, the 42 people, they gotta be Sixth Ward residents.
Surprisingly, no,
What?
yeah,
They're driving to it?
yeah,
yeah, man.
and they're hot commodities, they're
Dude,
hard to get.
Luke
we
was
have
one of them
lines,
for, yeah, yeah.
What's that?
we have lines, 2 years in a row, they've had to run a lottery,
Yeah,
oh yeah, they're,
I was suggesting a while ago that we take some of these vacant lots and turn them into some community gardens.
Yeah, there's, in your ward, on the
Yeah.
corner of Center Street, there's a house that's been vacant for my entire life. The land bank owns it, and I would love it if we could buy it and turn it into a centrally located community garden. That'd be amazing. So yeah, I'd be in favor of that.
But yes, people are willing to participate actively.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that that one non-city resident got in there, because
he's a returner.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, he's a returning gardener.
It's just like box
It's
seats at
tight,
Yankee
man.
Stadium or
Yeah.
something, you just don't give them up?
You just don't.
Okay.
So much so, they had to put in, people were trying to sublease
Yeah.
plots,
get out of
so they had to put a stop to that.
Oh my goodness, there's like a black market for that. Garden plots. That's awesome.
Because I know what I
And
can do with
terrible.
my land on Third Street.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, that would be great.
All right, so the parade closures.
Mhm.
Has that number grown in the years? In the last 5,
I'd say it's pretty static.
pretty static?
That's every parade, every street closure, so block party counts as a street closure.
And this is any street in the city, not
Any
just Main Street, okay.
So again, I guess this is a Greg and Chris question, is this covering the cost of closing down the streets, the city costs?
That would have to depend on case by case analysis of each parade, how many officers or DPW workers were involved, and how long did it take them to set it up and close it down. That hasn't been done.
So would this be a cost plus whatever?
Well, that's a good idea for this one.
Well, it could be. That means every application, you have to just, obviously go through the same process, go through now, define what it is we need done, figure out what that's gonna take, come up with the cost, tell them the cost. So the process would be probably extended. We do have trouble now with applications coming in routinely
Okay.
with not enough time according to the permit process, but we work with people, so we always get it done.
How much time do you need, Greg?
That's not me, that would be really DPW and deep and depending on the situation, public safety. Usually they're able to pull a meeting together within a week or 2
Oh,
days,
wow.
but it's, shifting schedules, shifting priorities.
Mm-hmm.
So how much did you okay? Nothing?
DO didn't pay for
So
their agreement.
we got paid $72.22 per parade or street closure.
So this is obviously something that we would utilize in the film permitting process as well, so.
And if we flip the paper over?
But
Oh, sorry.
because I'm assuming that the,
So a block party would be less than, say, closing down Main Street, because you've got multiple blocks that they have to put barriers and then police officers.
right, which is what I'm feeling like is more than $72.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I keep asking, is this cover our costs? We'll do that. I know we'll have the conversation of, does cost outweigh the community enjoyment?
Mhm. Yeah, well, the other thing I'm wondering is like, if I wanted to have a block party, for example, and I were able to, because one of the things that I noticed in some of the permitting was basically, this is what's required, either you provide volunteers or we will, and we'll, not we will, but we'll provide the service and we'll bill you for it.
Billion.
So if I were gonna have a block party, would I be able to get a permit and then use my own volunteers to, you know, block the street with a car, whatever, how we do it, you know, on Main Street, we pull a big DPW truck, so, is that something that's allowed, or is it something that we always, like DPW always goes and facilitates?
There aren't very many block parties.
I know, it makes me sad, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
I'm not certain if we've had allowed them to put it up. I don't think we would just let someone put their car out in front. I think we want to have the correct barricades and all that installed, so. We trust the volunteers to put them in place when we tell them, here it is, put this here on Saturday.
Okay.
I think we have done that in a few cases in the 6th Ward.
Yeah, I was thinking of Kayla Carpenter had a block party, so what did they do? That was just a drop-off situation and they set them up and took them down?
I think so.
Okay.
They were told where the city felt they should be placed
Oh, good,
and then directed to place them.
okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could, the more you can come up with a standard fee that's not calculated on a case-by-case basis, the easier it makes the administration, the less time someone has to spend on it. So in case of a block party, it's gonna be a block, we're not gonna approve Center Street, we're gonna approve Myrtle Ave, you know,
Wow,
side
he's right.
street. Wouldn't we just go on the corner on Elm?
No, it's fine, okay.
Yeah. The example being that you wouldn't wanna have to divert a lot of traffic
Okay,
if you
sure.
could just go on the corner. Anyone could request anything, but it would make sense that you go on the corner. Main Street.
I know you'll work with me, it's fine, yeah.
Main Street, we talked about it, I think last year or 2 years ago with council, generally just as a sort of policy, not maybe a written policy, but limiting the number of street closures on Main Street due to the impact on some businesses and the effort it takes to do it. Essentially trying to do no more than one per month, we have like 10 of those throughout the year, so there really isn't, from that angle, a lot of opportunity to have additional street closures, unless we're gonna just do a lot. So I don't know in this case if there's many other than parades, or not parades, races, which we're trying to
Put in the park.
to the park if they're 5Ks, or not add new street races and that kind of thing. So there probably aren't that many novel street closures that would be coming up.
Yeah. But even the races in the park, like, similar thing, right? Like, I feel like we're assuming that public safety would need to be there, but we might be able to say, you need to have, you know, maybe there's like an event consult fee where we say, this is what you need to have. And then, you know, if you're able to provide volunteers to do this, then we don't charge you a fee beyond that. But if you can't do that, like, here's what it will cost you for the city to do that for you. Because it sounds like, you know, in the case of the 6th Ward block party, you know, you met with the organizers and said, you know, here's XYZ. That's obviously, it requires time and coordination, but it's less intense than, you know, sending several members of the police department to the park or shutting down all of Main Street and, you know, so I think we need to accommodate the sort of varying degrees of intensity in some way. And so that might be a way to do it where you have your flat fee, but then if it becomes like above and beyond that, you know, you have a way to actually like effectively recoup some of the costs associated with an event.
Yeah.
Thanks. I just spit all in there.
You did an excellent job.
Thank you very much.
So how much do we currently charge for block parties?
So a street closure permit is $100.
And that covers your time in your office and then DPW dropping off, putting,
Okay, you're saying that's what we charge, but it doesn't cover, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Oh, I
I
was
would raise it to like
confused.
150 and just have it be like consult
So it's 100.
volunteers or, but either way, they have to have those criteria met. So like you have to have somebody controlling traffic or like we'll do it for you, like, or, you know, I don't know.
How does that work, Greg?
Yeah, how do we
The insurance,
put out
if
there to
we're
make sure
allowing
they are?
volunteers to put up the barricades. 'Cause I'm not trying to trap you anything, I'm just trying to think this one out, like, putting barricades up, if they're not done right and somebody goes through them and people are hurt.
We transfer liability with a signature.
I think there's insurance that they provide.
Oh, okay.
We require an insurance certificate with us named as an additional insured.
How much is that policy?
1 million is the base. Some organizations have more voluntarily, but 1 million is the base that we see.
So for that little block party on River
I
Street.
believe they signed an indemnification agreement, so they indemnified the city
Okay,
against any
gotcha.
damages.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, okay. You can also get event insurance for one day.
You can.
How do we make sure that they're following the rules?
Same way we do it everywhere,
Yeah.
I guess, police, patrol.
What rules?
Well, I'm saying like,
What'd you say, Greg?
if you say
Which
that,
rules do you prefer?
if we say like, hey, like if you bring your own people, like, or we're gonna charge you to have bodies, like who checks to make sure that they have their people? And what bodies do we then hand them?
So public safety is consistently patrolling, even though they're not dedicated to the particular events, they're through the area and constantly present. So I would presume, I mean, we've had events in the past where there have been complaints made, but the police department has been quick to address that.
So like maybe like all volunteers need to wear a certain color shirt, so they're identifiable or something, like
Oh, yeah.
how do we,
Or like a lanyard or some other something.
how does one like, you know, especially if it's a bigger event, how are we certain that they have the appropriate number of people?
Through the event organizer.
Yeah,
So we have a pre-event meeting with them, no sooner than, no earlier than, or 2 weeks prior to the event, to ensure that they're going to comply with what we need.
I mean, and it always comes out in the wash, you know? Like, I remember hearing about an event that I wasn't at and they didn't have traffic control, which is why I said that specifically. So, you know, if you know that, then, you
I
know.
think we're thinking the same event, and that has been moved to the park because of
Cool.
that concern.
Cool, cool.
So like say they're supposed to have 20 volunteers per our guidelines, and say only 8 of their volunteers show up. Now, it's on us to ensure, right, cause that's the
No,
rules
it's
that
their
we-
insurance, right?
We don't set a guideline for how many people they have to have present. So we will have a discussion with them prior to their event, say, for example, the race in Newa Park.
Mhm.
You know, there will be a race in Newa Park, these are the number of intersections that you need to control. They'll tell us, yes, we can control that, they will assume that responsibility. So we don't set a number for them, we ask what services they need, how we can help, and make out an arrangement then.
Right, so I think you're asking about like a fee if they don't comply.
Right,
And I think that the assumption of risk, like if something were to happen, being on the organizer is really the consequence of not following the directions, more so than like us being like, you didn't have blah, 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 here's a $50 fine.
well, even more so than that, than somebody actually getting hurt or there being a problem.
Right, so
Because
that
we
would be
don't
the
have enough
insurance.
people. Well, insurance, I guess I'm trying to be proactive.
Yeah,
And that, yes, insurance is helpful, but
and like not let people get hurt.
yeah, that part.
Could I
mention something?
To Lynn?
Every Saturday, the farmer's market closes Deed Street. You could use that as a model, how they do it.
They do it themselves?
I don't know the answer to that right now. I know, I did it for 2 weeks.
Okay, well, now I'm wondering, because we hired the,
But there's a model that exists for the farmer's market.
yeah, so is that the city's liability if he doesn't do it right? Probably. Yeah. Sometimes I wish Dave Merzig was here because he doesn't always answer the question, but somehow he makes you feel better about moving forward, which is nice.
All right, moving forward, pavilion fees.
Correct. So related is the graphics, correct?
Hey,
So what
look
is-
at these fabulous graphics.
What does LH stand for?
Longhouse. So
Long.
that is the old pavilion by the old pool.
Okay.
So one person, right?
One person rented it. Yeah, it's a relatively new addition to our, I don't wanna say rental fleet, but rental facility.
One city resident, right? Yeah, one city resident, okay. So,
Where is this?
are these all unique,
Is that Kiwanis?
unique users, meaning
Unique events, so not
unique events?
necessarily users, unique reservations.
Okay, so 106, 107,
Is the small pavilion the Kiwanis pavilion?
113,
The small, Kiwanis and Newland and Bill Martin.
183.
Wait, what? It's not Kiwanis in there?
And that's the Bill Martin and Newland.
So 183 events,
Yes, I don't know if I've come to terms with that yet.
What?
183 events, and the revenue is 10,040. And majority,
Institutions, eh?
right,
Yeah, that tracks.
so Terry, what was the thought process on, I'm looking at the pavilion rental fee schedule, I see the difference, the pricing difference between resident and non-resident. And then the first two lines, I understand the ratio, and then the next two changes. What is the thought process on the changing of the ratio there?
I would have no way to explain that.
That's gonna be, is that Chris?
No, this structure has been in place for a number of years. I believe each individual was increased by a percentage, but not necessarily correlating to the opposite.
And it's the same per park, which is interesting also.
So how do you feel about at least the last entry into following the first two's formula? That's $10 difference.
Wait, what?
Where are you, what? Where's the $10 difference?
Well, for residents 50, for non-residents 90.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, because the large on a weekday is 50 and 100.
Yeah.
Small is 50 and 90. Okay, I didn't get that.
I just think that needs to go up.
Wait, weren't you doing the math last week or 2 weeks ago? And
It's, yeah,
I think I wrote a note somewhere that you had down that hadn't changed in 5 years or something.
yeah, it hasn't changed.
Right. Okay. Do you follow the formula or?
Do we ever have a problem with renting these out, or do they rent the?
Not really. We have a couple more on the non-resident side that will be hesitant because of the fee. But no.
Well, I think, I don't wanna speak for you, Shannon, but what I'm hearing is that maybe these need to be,
Increased, yes.
you know, wholesale sort of looked at rather than just making sure that they're the same ratio, like, do we think this is an appropriate amount? I mean, I think $100 to rent the pavilion is reasonable,
Yeah,
and the large pavilion on the weekend, I mean, even 100, wait. How many,
It's right there,
I know, but I'm,
69, right there, no?
on the weekend?
I didn't break down weekend versus
Yeah,
weekend.
That's what I was trying to figure out, like, I feel like there's some decent usage of the pavilion on the weekend.
But do
The
you-
large of it is
Pavilion?
weekend.
do people, like, if it was, like, Neo a large is taken, do they do over large?
They will look for an
Oh.
alternative, it depends on how important their date is versus the location.
Right,
So then we should leave it a flat fee.
yeah.
What's the deposit on the, I'm looking here and I don't see the deposit on the fee schedule itself for the pavilion.
There is no fees deposit for a pavilion, the deposit only applies for alcohol permitting.
And we've never had an incident other than alcohol permit, where somebody,
Not that I can recall off the top of
Okay.
my head, I don't know if you could remember anything different. Typically tied to,
so typically, if you use, I'm a city resident, and I use the large pavilion Monday through Friday, it only costs me $50 and that covers our costs. We're taking their garbage, right? So it's $4 a bag for me, I don't know, the city pays. Plus staff time. Okay,
Yeah,
I mean,
so,
I'm sorry.
go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, presumably that's on the, during the weekdays, during the 4-day week, it's presumably on like a rounds kind of thing, right? We're not
Right.
going at, like, immediately after the event to like pick up all the trash. So, I mean, if an event on a Tuesday generates 2 bags of trash, they're really only adding $8 to the,
okay. So if I take your analogy, I can understand how we get to the 85 for the large on Saturday, Sunday, because then we're probably going to pay someone to go do that, but then why is it only $50 for the small pavilion?
right?
Right, I definitely, so I would even argue that the large be $100 on the weekend. For city residents.
I would like to,
I'm
oh, sorry, no, I didn't mean to cut you off, you had a question?
I was gonna ask, we asked them for their license, that they're city
to
residents.
verify city residency.
I think I would like to, so the thing is, I know that a lot of these pavilion rentals are for like little kids' birthday parties. And I don't wanna make it so unaffordable, but it is like a really inexpensive alternative to a lot of other places. So I think that if we were to raise it right away to what I think it should be, which is 150, people would freak out because it's almost double. But if we did like $100 this year, $150 next year, I think that would be, I think that's like a
And
reasonable amount.
Maybe we could even do something where people, like chose, like to do this, not really that we require, but sometimes people will have like verification or proof of income
Mhm.
and stuff like that, and maybe if they wanted to provide some documentation, then maybe they were, you know,
Hardship.
yes,
Yeah.
that we can have a lower fee for somebody who's, because that's why I was hesitating with the 100, because it is a lot of kids' birthday parties.
So I want to make sure we cover our costs for the city residents, and then we go
Right.
above that, because they already pay through everything else for us. Like, we're always trying to get people to be living here. And so, if you're a non-resident, right, I don't mind it if you're gonna pay more, I agree with you.
Right.
That number that's over there to the non-resident, that's nothing.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, I
really
think the
low.
Vets Club is $250 for.
Right, I paid, yeah,
So, I just wanna make sure we cover the cost for the city residents on the stuff, like the garden. For me, it's just cover the cost, whatever we're forking out as residents. And then if you're a non-resident, a business or institution, then yeah, you should be paying more. Because you're not living here and you wanna use our infrastructure. And it costs us money.
would you guys be comfortable if somebody financially could prove that they are in hardship, that we could charge a reduced fee?
It would be based upon the guidelines presented by the council. We will not, yeah,
Just making sure you do it there.
we do what we're told.
Okay. I mean, I feel like honestly during the weekdays, 50 and 25 for city residents is not awful.
Mhm.
But on the weekends, I think it should be, because there are fewer days, first of all, to choose from, and they're just more in demand. So I would raise those to probably 175
That's what I was gonna say.
for city residents, and then double it for non-city. It would
yeah.
be 200 and 100 for the weekend. It would leave the weekday prices the same, but it would increase large and small to 175 for city residents, and then 200 and 150 for non-city residents / businesses.
I'm trying to understand the difference between the large and the small. Like, besides size, I'm just thinking of it from the staff side of it. Like, how many garbage cans are there?
Garbage cans are relatively similar, but the large pavilion has obviously an increased capacity, 200 versus 30. More surface to clean, there's
Right.
electricity, there's running water, there's bathrooms and facilities.
True.
I don't know about 200 is
On a weekend though, for somebody to rent like the large pavilion at Neowa and they're from out of town,
Right, but don't we have bathrooms at the Wilbur, or did we shut them down?
just the one upstairs. In the upper part, the large one has the bathroom. The small pavilion is down by the pool and it does not have a bathroom.
So down by the tennis courts or over
No.
by the pool?
Behind the pool, like
Way back?
near the telephone of the wind.
Hmm?
Near the telephone of the wind.
That's right, you put that up, or?
I
And
had nothing to do with it, but I did.
so if you guys are,
Promote.
okay, so as long as you guys are, if they wanna prove hardship, great, if for city residents, then we will give them a reduced fee.
What does that look like?
I think that probably looks like what the fees are now.
What is that proof of hardship?
Well, we can talk about that. I mean, cause so for some people, I know for some programs, again, based on what they're willing to show, we're not gonna require it, it's if they want the reduced, like, but some people will show like their EBT card, or they'll show like the letter of their receipt of services that they're receiving,
Sure.
or this disability card and stuff like that, or if they're a veteran, or stuff like, you know what I'm saying, like, it's what they
Yeah.
choose to kind of share with us.
Basically saying like, if you qualify for these other programs, which are based on, you know, a federal or state income guideline, that you would also qualify for our city
For our-
reduced rates.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Cause then we don't have to establish something independent of.
Right, it's already
It's
out
already
there,
fine.
already done, yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We're not making up the rules on it,
Yeah,
not reinventing the wheel. But I think that it would be good for veterans, I think just to have access for people who.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah,
what would the reduced fee be, or would it just be waived?
I think the,
Current rate is the reduced?
I think current rate is, the 85 is so weird to me.
Cause it's not a round number, and 140, like
So
what?
weird, that's not 85 times 2, I don't get it, okay.
Yeah. Honestly, if it's something where, you know, we
Wait,
want to make our outdoor spaces accessible, to, you know, folks with like tight incomes, like I would be fine with, even if we don't waive it, just doing like $20 and $10 on the weekday and, you know, $50 and $25 on the weekends, if you can show that, like proof of income. Cause I think this is a really affordable
A
option.
lot of people use it for their kids.
Yeah.
Because
I
if
don't wanna
you
price
go
people out of
rent the
Noah's World or,
the skating
and
rink
the roller
is
rink is
300 to
expensive.
privately rent it
yeah,
for 2 hours, so.
This is
both
for the
great
entire
places to
day.
have parties,
Seven AM to 10:30 PM.
the whole day.
Jeez Louise.
Say that again, 7:30
7
a.m.,
AM
7 a.m. to
Can we
10:30?
split them up?
to 10:30 PM.
Yeah, can we do like morning
Can we do
and
morning and
afternoon?
after? Yeah, I agree. Let's do morning and afternoon.
Yeah,
Do you have conflict issues? Meaning more than one person wants the day,
Occasionally, not frequently.
occasionally?
People typically, and with the exception of some family reunions that have been happening same weekend every year for a number of years, typically we'll just say, okay, it's not available, and then, okay, what about this date? So they'll come prepared with alternative dates.
Cause if they wanna rent both afternoon and evening, or morning and evening, that's cool. But like, I think we should
totally.
split it up.
Make it available to more people.
Yeah.
Also, we're talking about this income,
Mhm.
guideline for just city residents, right?
Yes.
Okay.
One consideration that if you have 2 slots available on a given day, if you rent to 2 different parties, then I would think the second party expects the place to be clean when they show up, which means now DPW has to come in and clean it.
Right,
And
which on the
additional
weekend.
times.
Yeah, but if they're going to clean out 4 or 5 bags of garbage for the, like, if they're on, cause I've seen them over there, they're on grounds.
Not on weekends.
No.
They
It's
work
cleaned
Monday
once
through
a day.
Thursday, or well,
Weekends.
Monday through Friday during the summer for those parks.
What would it entail to have them?
The weekends there is a garbage collection in the morning, but they don't come back around in the afternoon.
In fact, we notice people who reserve our facilities that it's cleaned once a day in the morning and
Okay, so what if we do like Forum Park and other parks and say, what if you bring in, you take with you?
But then
It
there's
has to be a park-wide policy. Right.
Not the renting of the pavilion policy, why couldn't we say that? If you're bringing trash in, you take it back with you.
I mean, the issue that I see is like you were saying with the setting up the barricades is like, if they don't do it, then this is what we ran into, which is why it comes to mind. Like, how do we prove that it was the people who were there that made the mess? But I mean, that's also an argument for the other side, which is like, if you rent the pavilion all day, but your thing isn't until 4 and they pick up the trash in the morning and somebody goes and just like brings their household garbage and dumps it in that can, like the city's not gonna do anything about that either, and you're not getting a clean pavilion, so it could go anyway, because it's a public place, so you can't control what people are gonna do with it
I'm
when
hearing
nobody's watching it.
Oh,
But I'm hearing that we're gonna cause more work on city staff for right now, and so why don't we just hone in on reduced rate for the hardship residents? That'll be these numbers, is that what you're thinking of, that are existing for residents? And then you two had a number, and I didn't know where you settled in for the,
for
weekends.
weekend, for large, 100 and small, 75. That's for city.
That's for regular, kind of
Regular
Regular city
everyday
residents.
rates.
I circled
for
it,
city
reduced
residents.
rate for hardship residents, the
I
rates that
think-
were already printed.
We
Oh,
should
I had
make
said,
it smaller,
I made
yeah.
them small, like I was thinking, I have a inline 25, 10, 50, and 25.
Right. I guess where I would differ with you, because it's not covering the cost that the city incurs to go do that.
Okay, then we disagree.
Okay.
Do we know how much it costs to have them go over and take care of the pavilion?
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry, that was just that was stream of consciousness, please continue. I'm really sorry, that was so.
There you go.
How much, what was your question?
No, I was trying to see, no, they're gonna find out, cause straight up, what does it cost to have someone go in, clean it up and turn it over?
I'm wondering if there's a way, if the issue is morning, afternoon, it's more likely to be on the weekends, and we're also talking about the fact that DPW just goes in the morning on the weekends. Could we provide a bigger, like a dumpster, not a dumpster, but something bigger that would hold, that we would say, like, you have to put your party's garbage in this bigger thing on the weekends? That could be a really cost-effective way
Or you're
to solve the
responsible for
problem.
your garbage and you sign off on that.
It could be, I think the issue is just people don't clean up after themselves.
Len, what were you
Especially if
thinking for reduced?
in any way to disarray, then
Right.
some
Yeah.
people get the call, part-time call, crew get the call, and then complain.
Yeah,
And when does that generally happen, Greg? After the event?
Well, we don't have,
Like on the weekend, that's what you're getting at? So
you say
somebody,
it doesn't happen.
somebody rents the pavilion on Saturday and staff didn't get to it until Sunday morning, someone's complaining Saturday afternoon?
potentially, there could be someone rented it, they're there on Saturday afternoon,
Okay.
Saturday morning, someone who didn't rent it came and made a mess,
Right.
and the bathroom's a mess or something. That would be.
Oh, you're saying like the general public, somebody made a,
That could
That could
be.
happen.
In this case, if you had two renters, then it could be one renter making a mess for that.
all right, so I just have it down that, Chris will get back to us on if the pavilion charges that are listed here cover the costs of city staff. Okay. All right, so, in 2 weeks, we will talk about the zoning.
Okay.
Neighborhood markets. So I would imagine easily both meetings for July will consume that subject matter. And so in the meantime, I've got it down, I'm gonna send out an email to you guys to start about the filming.
What days in July? Our typical meeting day, and did we agree to something else?
Second and fourth Monday is what we did in June. So it'd be the 8th and the 22nd.
That's what we have written down, both at 5 o'clock. That's
What, July what?
July 8 and 22 at 5 o'clock.
Does that work for you?
Hold on.
I think it's okay with me. I can't be here on the 15th, so that works well. When does quality of life meet?
In July will be the 29th.
Okay. And finance is this coming Thursday? Okay.
I'm sorry, so the 8th and the 22nd, you said?
Yes.
I may not be here, but
For,
the 20, so definitely I can be here on the 8th. The 22nd, if I,
22nd is, you guys are the only meeting on that day, so we can play if schedules.
let me,
if we shifted an hour one way or the other, does that, I just don't know, keep you,
if,
you still work at 8 to 4 during the summer?
Yes, I work 8 to 4 during the summer, Monday through Thursday, so.
Okay.
But yeah, 5 is fine with me, but I can also be flexible.
let me, I'm sorry, I can get back to you guys. I just need to triple check some things.
Okay.
Cause she is going to be all the way in Unadilla for acting. So, but it's like very close to kind of pick up. Or not Unadilla, where is it, Bainbridge? I don't know what.
So
So
yeah, even if you have to
like-
shift to say 5:15.
Like, or you guys can start and I can show up or whatever, but let me, cause it's like a half hour. And let me see what I can do.
Yeah, and we can shift the time if we need to.